While you've probably heard of Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, which is approaching July 22nd to September 4th, is a whole other thing. Retrogrades are a time where we reassess, reevaluate, rethink things in our life. And so Mercury is a planet of communication. So when Mercury goes retrograde, it's a lot of reconsidering things that have to do with logic, intellect. Venus, on the other hand, is more about matters of the heart, what brings you pleasure, love, relationships. Venus retrograde happens a lot less frequently than Mercury retrogrades. They happen every 18 months, and they happen in the same sign about every 8 years. This is why you're probably used to Mercury retrograde. This happens 3 to 4 times a year. And while Mercury retrograde is more like, Venus retrograde is more like, So I'm going to tell you why Venus retrograde is important, why you should look out for what's about to come up, and 4 things that you probably should not do during a Venus retrograde. Now, for my weekly readings this week, I will be talking more about Venus retrograde and what it will be doing for every sign. I will break down what every sign can expect with this Venus retrograde coming up. Venus retrograde is huge. Let me remind you, it happens only every 18 months, and Venus, matters of the heart, love, relationships, money, what we desire. And the reason why this Venus retrograde is really important is because not only is this Venus retrograde in Leo, which is all about pleasure and fun and romance, creativity, self-expression, it's happening at the same time the lunar nodes are switching. And this is your destiny. I talk about this in length in my last week's reading if you want to see that for every sign. But it's not just that. It's also the fact that we have basically half the solar system retrograde at this point. And so when I say we're really going to review, reassess, reevaluate, reconsider, rethink, and even rekindle matters of the heart, everyone is going to feel this. Another thing with retrogrades is that they can be a window to the past. So a lot of people from your past will come up during this time. Remember, Venus is all about love and relationships. So it can be former lovers. It can be former friends, colleagues, employees, neighbors, even the ones that got away. Kind of like a Gwyneth Paltrow movie, like Sliding Doors. You had that small moment with someone who you thought was your soulmate, but then, you didn't get on the same train that they did. That person could come back into your life. Venus went in shadow June 19th, so you're probably already feeling little moments of this. I personally am. I have former bosses that I have not spoken to in years getting in touch with me. I have had a lot of friends that I haven't spoken to in a long time liking my Instagram posts. So you'll see little hints of it, but you're really going to feel it July 22nd to September 4th. Now, with any retrograde, there are a lot of things that you shouldn't do. And this is why I'm making this video. 4 things you should not do from July 22nd to September 4th. First things first, let's give a big shout out to Galileo for discovering Venus in 1610. It also makes sense that Venus is a planet of love because it is a hot, fiery planet. Now, Venus rules everything that you think Venus would rule. Romance, beauty, love, money, creativity, really just matters of the heart and what you value. So when Venus is retrograde, you're going to be reassessing and really rethinking things that do bring you pleasure, things that you do value, your relationships, love, finances, even the way that you want to be perceived or the way that you want others to perceive you, and even physically too. All right? Physically too. So not only am I going to tell you the 4 things that you shouldn't do between July 22nd to September 4th, I'm going to give you concrete examples of things that have happened during that time and show you why it doesn't work out. All right, so let's do it. Here are the 4 things that you should not do while Venus is retrograde, July 22nd to September 4th. 3rd. Just to be safe, let's just say the 4th. Number 1, do not get married or do not initiate a new relationship. Venus retrograde, especially in Leo, are known to be breakup moments. Breakups, shakeups, wake-up calls. A lot of y'all are probably already processing a lot of these things. especially because Venus did go into shadow. All right. Again, you're feeling little bits of it. You may be already rethinking things in your life. So I said earlier, Venus retrogrades really are a time of breakups. It's a big thing that happens, okay? So a lot of y'all may be getting divorces, a lot, because, here's the other thing. Venus is squaring Uranus and Jupiter during this retrograde. A lot of breakthrough moments, a lot of moments of what you believe moving forward is what's right for you. So there can be divorces. Oh, there you go. There's your big sign, all right? With the, there you go. So there are a lot of divorces. There are a lot of breakups during Venus retrogrades, all right? But it's also not a time to initiate. You never want to initiate something during a Venus retrograde when it comes to relationships. It just may not work out the way that you want it to. You're not getting Venus's full energy when Venus is retrograde, when Venus is taking its beauty nap. So with Venus in Leo, and especially with the sun moving in Leo as well, a lot of single people are probably going to be meeting people, and you're going to have a lot of fun. It's a flirty time. It's a social time. It is the summer of love, and that's fine. Just don't go steady, okay, until after September 4th. And when I say go steady, don't make any official commitments until after September 4th. Because remember, Venus retrograde, you're not getting the full powers of Venus, but also you are going through this whole process of reassessing what you want, what you like. And so after Venus goes direct, you may realize, I don't want to be in this relationship, or I don't think this is going to work out, or the other person can think that. Again, you want Venus on your side. So don't initiate a new relationship if you're single. If you're in a relationship, you're fine. You're good. You're probably just going to reassess, what's happening in my relationship? Should we take it to the next level? Should we break it off? Again, it's just a time of reassessing, all right? Matters of the heart. Also, don't get married during a Venus retrograde if you can avoid that. Now, if you already have plans to get married during a Venus retrograde period, you're fine if you do one thing. Sign the official papers before Venus goes retrograde or after Venus goes direct. You can still have your wedding. You can still have a blast. But do all the signing of the official documents before or after. I actually have a friend that did that, and they're living happily ever after. Right, so I promise you examples. So think about the last time Venus was retrograde in Leo. It was the summer of 2015. It was July to September 2015. That was the summer of breakups. A lot of these breakups and divorces made headline news. So if you're a fan of The Voice, you may remember Blake Shelton and Miranda Lambert, they divorced in July 2015 during a Venus retrograde. At the same time, Gwen Stefani and Gavin Rosdale called it quits August 2015 during a Venus retrograde. So you see how people do end relationships during Venus retrograde. But now, fast forward to November 2015, when Venus was direct. Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani got together. And they are still together. And they are happily in love, and they are soulmates. Gigi Hadid and Jonas, summer of 2015, started dating. They're not together. Jennifer Aniston and Justin Thoreau got married August 2015 during a Venus retrograde. Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner announced their divorce in July 2015 during the Venus retrograde. They finalized their divorce in October 2018 during a Venus retrograde. It wasn't in Leo, but it was during a Venus retrograde. Jennifer Garner started hanging out with a new person, someone who had come back into her life during a Venus retrograde. And they split. But they got back together, but they're not married. So you see how relationships can be really affected if you initiate during a Venus retrograde, but you also see how there's a lot of breakups during Venus retrograde, especially in Leo, okay? Because it is a time where people are reassessing matters of the heart, their values, relationships, all of that. So again, you can expect there are going to be breakups, shakeups, wake-up calls during Venus retrogrades when it comes to relationships, but it's also not a good time to start a relationship or to commit or go steady, if people still say that term. Number 2, don't start a new business. Don't make a big investment. Don't launch a business during Venus retrograde. Remember that I said Venus rules money, finances, okay? So when Venus is taking its beauty sleep for, the next 40 days. You're not going to get the full powers of Venus. So there may be some potential that your business or whatever passion project it is may not do so well. Like, it may not make money. For an example, think about the company Homejoy. I don't know if you remember this. This was a while back. They actually launched their website during a Venus retrograde. It was in Gemini. It was in summer of 2012. However, the company announced they went bankrupt during Venus retrograde, July 2015. It was a housekeeping peer-to-peer website of some sort. But that's an example of a business that launched during a Venus retrograde, but also coincidentally went bankrupt during a Venus retrograde. Another example is American Apparel. I don't know if you remember that retail store, but this is a company that I actually loved. I loved American Apparel. Now, we're going way back. The owner of American Apparel back in the summer of 2007, when Venus was retrograde in Leo, signed a shareholder capital transaction. It was basically when it was just like, okay, investments. It had to do with investments. The company went bankrupt in 2015. Again, another example of a business where papers were signed during a Venus retrograde period. Number 3, do not make any drastic changes to your physical appearance. Venus rules beauty. And so again, we're not having the full powers of Venus at this time. You don't want to make really big changes to your physical appearance. We're talking dramatic, okay? Dramatic changes to your physical appearance. So that does include, like, if you have long hair and you want to get a pixie cut, wait until September 4th, please. If you have a cool man bun and you want to get a mohawk, wait until September 4th. It's because you just may regret doing it. So during a Venus retrograde, you may decide you don't like your new look. This also includes elective cosmetic surgeries like Botox or whatnot. I would wait a little bit until after. It's only 40 days, y'all. It's only 40 days. You can wait 40 days, all right, until September 4th. Then you can go nuts. Do whatever you want, but just during Venus retrograde, you do not want to do it. Now, an example, and possibly the craziest example I'm about to give you. We're going way back. Venus was retrograde in Leo, July to September 1999. Do you remember that show, Felicity, with Carrie Russell? If you are maybe millennial and older, you would remember this. It made headline news. In season 2 that premiered during Venus retrograde in Leo, Carrie Russell's character cut her hair. She had a dramatic new look. It was shoulder length hair. She comes back in season 2, I think it was the second episode, and her hair was really, really short. The number of viewers dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped until the show was canceled, all because of the haircut. And hey, listen, now if you Google this, you'll see a lot of top tier publications writing about this at the time, and it really was the fact that fans were not happy with the haircut, and they stopped watching the show. Once again, do not make dramatic changes to your physical appearance because you just may regret doing so. Number 4, and the last thing that you should not do during a Venus retrograde is do not splurge on things you do not need or even want. Like, don't go out buying a private island. Don't go out buying a yacht. Don't go out buying anything that is really expensive. Again, you are going to likely regret it. Venus, again, rules money. And during this time, you want to just reassess things. You want to rethink about your relationship with your money, your finances, investments. And you really want to think about how you can move forward in a positive way in this aspect. So yeah, sure. You can buy a private island after Venus goes direct. You can buy that yacht, that $1 million yacht, if you want it after Venus goes direct. But it's probably during the Venus retrograde period where you're going to think, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. It's not a great idea. And you will thank yourself later. Unfortunately, the only example I have of this is my trip to Thailand with a friend in the summer of 2015, where we decided to splurge on a luxury hotel rather than stay in one of those amazing, like really inexpensive villas. It was definitely something that I regretted when I got home looking at my bank account. I could have just had the same kind of great experience in one of these wonderful villas that were like 80% cheaper than the resort that we splurged at. So we weren't even spending that much time at the resort. It was a thing. Hey, that is my personal example. Now, Venus retrograde in Leo is going to affect every sign differently. And one thing that I want you to know, not only is Venus going retrograde in Leo, Venus is squaring both Jupiter and Uranus. This has already happened. It will happen again this week. It'll happen again in August. It's going to happen a couple times. These are just more like breakthrough periods. It's you evaluating your beliefs, things that bring you pleasure, things like that. These squares are more like breakthrough moments. So there you have it. Those are 4 things you should not do during Venus retrograde in Leo from July 22nd to September 3rd, or, let's just say 4th again. My dog she's staring off into space. You get it? Did you get that? Anyway, it would be great if you like, subscribe, leave comments. Let me know what's going on with you. I always love to hear what's going on. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. All right, bye-bye.